Hey guys, hope you're well. So, I've been doing a lot of self-reflecting over the past year about a certain tendency I have. And one of the tendencies is this desire to dominate, control, and destroy other people in an argument. And I let go of a previous tendency I had, but I didn't realize that this tendency was linked. And the desire was, I used to get very, very frustrated when people didn't used to, when I would present ideas or values or beliefs which I think would help people, help humanity, and when people didn't adopt them, I would get very frustrated with these people. I'd be like very, very pissed off with these people. And I didn't realize those two tendencies were linked. I let go of the latter tendency, but I've kept the argument one, of destroying people's arguments, etc., and arguing, getting involved in a lot of conflicts and arguments online. I kept that since I was 13. I've been like that, and it's only recently I realized I come to believe that it's very toxic what I'm doing. Now I try to just observe and monitor when that desire to engage in conflict and desire to destroy people's arguments and that desire comes up, because I don't think it's coming from a good place. I think it's just coming from the place of ego. So how does this relate to Islamic fundamentalism and a mindset? Well, I'm reminded of something that a Sufi Muslim who's dead now called Sheikh Nazim Haqqani said. And I was watching a video of his, and it was about Al Qaeda, and he looked at the camera. Well, he had a very powerful look on his face. A look I found very powerful, and he said, "Do you think the world is going to be under your command?" I was like, "Wow." And Sheikh Hamza Yusuf said something as well, and I don't know if it's from the Quran or Hadith, and he quoted, and he said, "They will become so deceived, they will believe they're all powerful over the earth." And what I'm talking about is the tendency within myself, and the tendency I think, something which I think a good intentioned Muslim can cross over to becoming a fundamentalist or an Islamist or somebody who may advocate policies, so we say, which are harmful for humanity, is this tendency to try to dominate and control other human beings. And what I mean, I'm talking not on a physical level, because it's very easy to, I think, to see that on a physical level. You see the jihadists doing that, who are trying to blow people up, kill people, etc. And it's very easy to dismiss them and say that's wrong. But on a more subtle level, like the people who engage in dawah, perhaps, and people who debate a lot about religion online, what I think can happen is you can cross over into a tendency to try to dominate, control other human beings' thinking. That you want that you almost like you want to impose into them particular thoughts, particular perspective, particular beliefs, particular values, and you can grow very frustrated when they don't adopt these beliefs and these values. And I think what comes from that frustration largely is a desire to dominate and control other human beings. I'm taking this from as I said, I come to this tendency before. Sufism talks about this. Emanuel Swedenborg in particular, I think I really like his perspective on this, and other spiritual traditions have exactly the same perspective. Is that it's this deceit that the world, that other human beings can be under your command, that somehow you can take away what God has given them, which is their free will, their mind, and you can and now you can try to impose upon them, certain beliefs and perspectives. And this desire that somehow, like I've said in the previous quotes from Hamza Yusuf and from Sheikh Nazim Haqqani, is that you can almost come to a point you can believe your own crap, and believe that somehow you can impose upon people certain beliefs and certain values. Or you can do what I've done is a very subtle thing, is to say this person just doesn't want to see the truth, etc. This person doesn't want to, right? That kind of tendency too, which is the same kind of thing, is that somehow you're all powerful. Your arguments are so brilliant, or your perspective is so insightful that of course this is true. Wait, you cannot see this. You must be engaged in some kind of mental trickery to do this kind of thing. Yeah. So what I say and what I think underlies that, and why I link it to a fundamentalist mindset, is this desire to dominate and control, I think, can snowball, and it gets to the point where is you want to impose your beliefs upon society in general, and it goes just from beyond the perspective of like an individual argument, and it comes to the point that you want everybody in society to see the world the way you want them to, and if people don't see the world the way you want them to, you don't want anything to do with them. And that's part of the fundamentalist mindset. Is a big problem I saw in Islam, huge problem when I was Muslim, was sectarianism, which was people dividing themselves up in sects, and dividing themselves up on the basis of ethnicity too, but that's a separate video. But on the basis of sect, it was people didn't think exactly like they thought. They didn't want anything to do with them, or they would spend most of their time trying to convert the person into their belief system. So you get, like in the UK, you get Deobandis who won't play in Bravi's mosque, Bravi's who won't play in Deobandi mosque, Salafis who won't play in other people's mosques, and all these groups, they won't pray in each other's mosque, and they see themselves as different Sufis against Sufis, and this kind of like I said, this kind of sectarianism. And that's, as a part of the fundamentalist mindset, is everybody needs to see the world the way I see it, and if I don't want anything to do with you. And it was this kind of like I said, this desire for control and dominance, rather than having this kind of a respect for plurality, this universal perspective. Well, we're all Muslims, right? So we all fundamentally agree the same thing. Okay, I disagree with you on this point. I really think you're wrong, but still, let's come together. Or even beyond that, we're all human beings, right? We all experience pain at some point in our life. We all have the same basic needs for stability and for love and for connection and for air and for growth and all these kind of things. We all have these basic needs, so let's come together, right? Rather than that, it's no, you need to see the world exactly the way I see it, and if you don't, I really don't like that, and I don't like you, and that kind of perspective. And that's what I think underlies, or not the underlying aspect of fundamentalism, but I think a very strong component, which I don't think is spoken about enough, is this. In my opinion, that is, if you're a Muslim watching this, I really think that in the Sufi tradition, I think there's very beautiful concepts, and you don't have to go into follow a Sufi sheikh and become a disciple of a particular order or anything like this. But in a lot of talk about the nafs, and even in when they talk about the nafs, one of the tendencies is arrogance, and to me that is a very strong form of arrogance. And as I said, I've got it, and I try to minimize it, I try to monitor it, is to believe that somehow you have the right to impose beliefs and values, to try to impose beliefs and values on other human beings. And it's, like I said, it's impossible, you can't do it, but it's this very strong desire to do that. And as I said, I believe that underlies a lot of the hostility and aggression and frustration when people are engaging in dawah and these kind of things, when people don't adopt their beliefs, or underlies aggression, frustration, desire to separate yourself from somebody who's a fellow Muslim who doesn't happen to believe the same things that you believe. So as I said, I think it's that arrogance that somehow you have the right to dictate to people exactly how they should think. And so if you're a Muslim watching this, I would strongly advise you to really go back to one of the fundamentals of Islam, which is God is in control, that everybody belongs to God, that God has given everyone free will, and you really don't have the right to try to interfere with somebody's free will. You don't have the right to try to impose anything upon somebody else. You don't have the right to that everything belongs to God, doesn't belong to you, and the people aren't your possessions. Their minds can never be your possessions. Their bodies cannot be your possessions. And try to come back to that belief. And like I said, I'm saying this at the same time, and it's good advice from me, and it's something I'm trying to work on myself. So from a non-Muslim to a Muslim, let's try to work on this together, and let's try to rid ourselves of fundamentalism. It's something that, like it says in Christianity, is why focus on the splinter or something like this. Why try to focus on the splinter in your brother's eye when you have a plank in your own. And a guy called Geoff Thompson, who I take spiritual advice from, he says it. He talks about people talk about non-Muslims, any non-Muslims watching this. A lot of us talk about the fundamentalism, Islamic fundamentalism, but he says we don't really look at our own fundamentalism. And like I'm talking about, the fundamentalism within us is to want to impose things upon other human beings. And I think that is an evil that isn't really or a root of evil, which isn't really recognized amongst a lot of non-Muslims too. I think a lot of anti-theists have that perspective, and and I think a lot of them don't realize. When I was an anti-theist, I was exactly the same. It's like really realize I'm feeding into that paradigm. I'm keeping it going. It's like I'm strengthening it. It's like they're fundamentalists and I'm a fundamentalist, and it's like we're strengthening each other's fundamentalism. You know, like I want to impose upon you. No, I'm going to impose this upon you, and we're trying to fight for dominance, and it's just reinforcing this fundamentalist thinking. And this, So if you're an anti-theist watching this, as I suspect most of my viewers are, I'd strongly advise you to try to let go of that yourself. And that doesn't mean anytime you're angry in a debate or something is wrong. Emanuel Swedenborg, who I take a lot of spiritual guidance from, he says that there's something called zeal, which is different to anger, and there's a video about it. I might link it in the description box. He talks about zeal can be, is about protection, but it's coming from a place of goodwill. So like I've unfortunately had somebody in my life say this, that it's something to the words of the effect that it's okay for other cultures to sell children into sexual slavery. And I felt really, I got something which I would have called anger. He calls it zeal, and because it's just this. I'm getting frustrated talking about it. This idea that it's okay for somebody to sell the child to be raped, I thought was a complete disgusting belief, and I still do. And I think that's coming from a place of zeal. It's not coming from a place of self-righteousness or arrogance. That's just a desire to protect the innocent. But on a different, on a different point, if I was going on something, but when I have different arguments about why does this person believe this about religion or this about this, etc., then if I start getting frustrated, then I'm like, ooh, I think I crossed over into the bad place. I think I crossed over into the place where I now want to win. It's becoming about winning. It's becoming about being right and dominating another person's argument. And so what I intend to do now is just try to step back, or I just simply don't engage, or I wait until that's gone, and then I come back and see if there is still something I want to say to the person or not. So anyway, so what I'm trying to say is fundamentalism is a huge problem in society, and it's a huge problem within us. And if we want to rid ourselves of fundamentalism, I do think it's important to challenge fundamentalist beliefs publicly in terms of activism, in debate. But I also think it's a good idea to challenge the fundamentalism within us. Okay, guys, so take care, and I hope you're well.